How is everybody? So I want to start off by reminding you about this Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time notifications, because we are going to go live and get into the Netflix breakout hit Squid Games. Man, there's so much to talk about concerning this show. So if you've seen it, if you're excited about it, if you hate it, if you think it's overhyped, bring all of that on Sunday, because we're going to deep dive into this show, and I would love for you to connect with me and get into this together. Now, that said, Foundation, Episode 3, The Mathematician's Ghost. So let's talk about it, because I love this show, and I feel like this show has the potential to be a huge breakout hit. Like, this show for me has notes of almost all the different things that you love. There are notes of Game of Thrones in this. There's notes of Star Trek in this. There's notes of Star Wars in this. There's notes of The Expanse in this. It has all of these different elements that I think, number one, makes the show unique, and I love how they're building this out. Now, mind you, I have not read the books. So for those of you all who are huge book fans, and you might be mad because they're varying from the source material, I don't have that hang up because I've not read the book, so I don't know. But I can tell you I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far. So I want to jump into episode 3. Share your thoughts with me on this as well, because I want to first start off by tackling some problems that people had with this episode, because people said that it was kind of slow. Now, I feel like what's happening here in the first 3 episodes is they are, pardon the pun, building a foundation. And I think that that's important, because I think that this show could be so big, and when I say big, I mean the scope of like a Game of Thrones, that you have to do some foundational work, at the outset. You can't just jump right into it. But one of the things that impresses me about this show is that the story is so engaging and it's so well done that it does drive you through. So you don't need necessarily a whole bunch of spectacle, in my opinion, to enjoy what they're building here. Now, one of the big arguments that I heard about this episode is that it doesn't really follow the name of the episode, The Mathematician's Ghost. And I think a lot of people were thinking that this episode was going to be about Harry Seldon. But what I want to submit to you is I feel like this whole episode is really reflecting the impact that Harry Seldon is having on everything and everyone, really, from the Empire to the folks on Terminus. And I feel like that's what is reflected here when they say The Mathematician's Ghost. It's really Harry Seldon is all throughout this episode by virtue of the impact that he's had when he makes that announcement to the Empire a long time ago, and that has always been with them as they've moved through the different ages. And I think even on Terminus, again, his impact is felt. You can see that in some of the dialogue, and I think that Structure is really almost a physical manifestation of the impact of Harry Seldon. We'll see if I'm wrong about that. Now, when this show first opens, I love what we get here with the first Cleon. I think it's fascinating to see the first Cleon, and then to track the Cleons throughout the ages, and just look at how that whole structure works with the cloning, and look at the similarities between the different clones, but also the diversity in the different clones, in that they had different outlooks, they had different desires, they had different things that they wanted to see happen, but the structure never breaks, right? The cloning process always continues, because that is how the Empire keeps its grip on the galaxy. So I think it was fascinating to see that. It was also fascinating to see, what's her name? Laura Byrne, I think is her name. Her character's name is Dermazel, I believe. Now, she's a fascinating character too, because apparently she is very old, and she has taken care of all of the different Cleons from the very first. So she's had interaction with all the different Cleons, and then all of their different iterations, right, from the dusk, the day, to the dawn. So I'm really fascinated with what's going on with her character, because you get the fact, or you get the idea that there's more there that meets the eye, and you get the idea that though she is loyal to the Empire, there is some sadness. And we also know that something has happened with her race that may not have been as favorable with how the Empire has acted towards her race as a whole. And it seems to me at this point that she might be the last of her kind. So I sense some angst in her. I do sense some loyalty with her serving the Empire, but I also sense some other things in her that are not necessarily loyal to the Empire, and a sense of sadness or a sense of loss with her. So I'm dying to know, or to see what they do with her character and how they develop her character more as well. I love Lee Pace in this. You guys might know him from the Lord of the Rings series. He is great as Brother Day also. So as we continue to see these different iterations of the empires, I'm fascinated to see what they do with that. One thing I also like about this structure, and this kind of reminds me of a Game of Thrones feel, is that you do also have these other nations, or rather other races, that are interacting with the empire, and all of them are kind of jockeying or vying for power. And I like the way that they've structured that. It also, even to me, has kind of a look and feel of Game of Thrones as well, but just set within a space framework. So I like all of those different aspects of the show. Now, it was fascinating to see the different Cleons throughout the different ages, but then when we jump to Terminus, it's interesting as well to also take a look at Savoir and find out more about her character. See, I'm already fascinated to know why it is that she can get close to the structure and no one else can. So that's one of the things I also love about this show too, is the writing and the intrigue that they build into all of the characters. And I feel like the writing is smart. Like, I feel like nothing is necessarily on the nose. I feel like you have to think about it, but I feel like it's well done. And I do feel like with this show, we are going to get some very good character development, which will really help to attach us to these characters as we move forward, because I can see the show having a very long shelf life if they continue to build it out. I think maybe it's taking some time to get off the ground, but I think when it does get off the ground, I think a lot of people are going to start watching this show. I think it's going to have a huge audience. So this episode, to me, I thought was great. Even though there was not a whole bunch of action, I think the story build was interesting. I think it was fascinating to learn what we learned about this show, and I think they did a good job of actually weaving in the mathematician's ghost as a whole into all that was going on in the show. And now I'm much more interested to see what happens as we move on in the future. I do want to share a theory from episode 2 that I didn't get to do a video on, because we're really doing our first video starting episode 3. Listen, I'm trying to catch up, Darksiders. You guys know I've been super busy in real life. So it's interesting. Harry Seldon's son kills him in the end. Now, I'm not really sure what's going on there, but my theory is this: either one of two things. This is something that Harry knew was going to happen and he allowed to happen, or it could be the case that somehow, some way, because we do know that Harry, for some people, is considered a murderer, somehow, some way, Harry Seldon's son, which apparently has been adopted, is really upset with the death of his parents because he believes that Seldon had something to do with it. And as a result of that, and I'm basing that on the argument that happened in episode 2, he can't take it anymore. He just flips and really kills him for that reason. Or I'm theorizing that somehow, some way, he might be connected to the Empire, and that killing of Harry was motivated by the Emperor. Those are all theories I have so far going on, and that's what's fun about this show too, because there's so many things that you can theorize out about as they build out the story in this. So I'm really enjoying Foundation. Do yourself a favor, if you've never seen it, make sure you check it out, look at it for yourself, and see how you feel about the storytelling. The visual appeal of it is absolutely fantastic. I think you'll love the performances too. This is a good show. I'm looking forward to really keeping up and trying to cover this week by week as they unroll this show. Apple Plus, man, this is amazing. So some of you all have asked me about C season 2 and covering C season 2, and all I can say is that I'm trying to get around to it. There's so much, right, to cover. I still have to get my thoughts out for this final episode of What If. I'm going to see the Bond movie tomorrow, so a lot of stuff on tap, Darksiders. And also, we're really going to start covering heavy news, especially around comic book movies and all that kind of good stuff, because there's so much stuff out there to see. I don't know if it was fan art or not, but I saw or fan casting, but I saw a cast for Black Adam, and I thought, man, this is amazing. So I'm really excited about a lot going on. Thank you guys so much. Make sure that you are there on Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because we are going to go live and talk about Squid Game. Hit that subscribe button if you're not part of the Dark Side community. Love you guys. See you on the next video. Peace.